Hello, the internet, and welcome back to another episode of DBacks Dispatch. We are your hosts, Gabriel and Brandon, and today we will be breaking down the sweep of the Atlanta Braves by this Arizona Diamondbacks team. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of good, a lot of bad as well, and we will be breaking down the good and the bad and the ugly, game by game. And so before we begin, we just want to welcome on in everybody in here who's in the chat. If this is your first time coming on here on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss another episode. If you're listening to us after the fact on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, same thing, rate and review us. And check us out on Discord, on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over the place at DBacks Dispatch, and you can read our written articles and other great content on AZ Snake Pits. So I guess let's just kick it off. Brandon, what did you think about the series overall? What were your feelings? What were your thoughts? Was there any sweating going on throughout these three games?
To be honest, the most sweat I did was in the ninth inning in game 2. Jesus. Like, I'm surprised the neighbor didn't call the cops with how loud I was screaming in that ninth inning. J-Mark got the job done, and that's all that matters. But no, like, we kind of talked about this, like, because they didn't do it with the Pirates in the Nationals. They didn't beat the teams that they are obviously better than, and we were really worried about that. That's the big takeaway from this series for me is, for the most part, we were the team that played the best out of the 3 games. And for me, that's what we need. Like, as soon as this team plays good baseball, it doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, we know that this is a top team in the National League. We haven't seen it this year, and I think for the most part in this series, we did see it.
Yeah, and that's basically my thoughts as well. I think all 3 of these games, there was a moment in it where you're like, okay, this is it. This is the point where they're going to lose, that the bullpen is going to fall apart, the offense is going to fall apart, the starting pitching is going to fall apart, because that's what we've seen so far this season. There's always a point in these games where it just gets away from the team and you're kind of just, waiting for the game to be over at that point. Like the Gallen game, he pitched very well, but after the error, you're like, damn, this is going to unravel everything. And then it didn't. And then when it came up closer to the end of the game, it was in the 8th inning. It was only, or 8th or 9th inning. It was only 5-3 at that point. And you're like, I don't know if I trust this bullpen with the 5-3 lead. Like there might be some issues there. Hopefully they can get some insurance runs. And, even J-Mart was warming up to take the 9th. And then Corbin hit that home run and then put the game out of reach at that point. And, it was relatively stress-free. I mean, they brought in Ryan Thompson. He did a quick work of the Atlanta Braves. But even still, you're like, maybe there's somebody else that I'd rather rely on. But in terms of low leverage situations, Ryan Thompson is good. Like his numbers show that he has been good in low leverage, but high leverage, I think, is the real issue here. And in the second game as well, Ryan Thompson coming in and just being unable to do anything good in that inning, letting the bases get loaded, just getting one out, and then having J-Mark come in and just absolutely dominate this Atlanta Braves lineup. Again, at that point, I was like, all right, this is it. This is when the game gets out of hand and they lose it. And they didn't. J-Mark did what he did in the 8th. And then in the 9th, same thing too, with the hit batters and the lack of control from J-Mark. You're like, all right, like this is it. This is when they're going to lose. And nope, he still pulled off the win. And then today, Brandon Pfaadt just could not find. I can't even say he can't find the strike zone because he threw a lot in the strike zone. It was just straight down the middle.
That's the problem. Is he was throwing too much in the strike zone.
And if you look at his spray chart, there was a lot of balls, just so many uncompetitive pitches outside the zone, and then the competitive pitches were straight down the middle. And I think that's what caused his big issues. And then he gave up was it 6 runs pretty quickly, and then
Yeah.
and then Tommy Henry 3 runs, Graveman another one. At that point, you're like, at least with when Falk came out of the game, I was like, all right, it's still early enough. This Braves bullpen does struggle, so hopefully they're able to, at least make it competitive. And then the white flag that is Tommy Henry was waved, and I was like, damn it, like I was not a fan, at least not for that third inning of work where he didn't
Yeah.
give up the runs, and then Kendall Graveman didn't have a great outing either, and then they made that miraculous comeback, came all the way back, and even then, I was still like, we've seen this team come back from this many runs before. We saw it against the Cubs and the Dodgers, and we've seen this happen like 4 or 5 times this season where they come back in the ninth, 4 or 5 runs in the ninth, they come back, and then the bullpen comes in and just absolutely craps the bed, and they end up losing. Like this is one, they're one, and was it 421, 122, like when trailing by 6 runs in the ninth. So again, sorry, we're just overall a great win by this team. I think very encouraging. I still think there's a lot that this team needs to clean up, specifically on defense. There was a lot of defensive, I'll say miscues, not errors, just because technically they weren't errors, but there was a lot of miscues and misplays that I think should have been made, that should have, made the starting pitch and even the bullpen look a lot better than they were. But we want to break down game one to begin this. It was Zach Gallen. He had a stupendous outing, and he started off really good to start off the game. He pitched a few scoreless innings, was a really low pitch count. And at some point, I believe it was the 4th inning, there was an error by Carroll and Marte and allowed a couple runs to score. And suddenly it was that they had scored 3 runs, and he did allow a home run as well. So at that point, it's 3 runs, 1 was earned. And I felt from what we've seen throughout this whole season, it was like, all right, this is when he unravels, he falls apart, and then they score 6 runs on him. But he didn't. He got his composure, and he went 7 innings, 1 earned run, and 1 walk with 89 pitches. I think if this team would have had the same lead they had at the end of the game, I think they could have let him go even longer if necessary. If it wasn't for the error, he also had the potential of even pitching a complete game because of that pitch count. But what do you think? Is this the Gallen we're going to see going forward? Is this vintage Gallen? Is he back? Or do you think maybe the Braves, they were maybe too aggressive against him, and maybe that's what they were working on against him in this game?
So it's an East Coast game, and for some reason, so far this year, when Gallen is in that Eastern time zone, he just pitches better. I don't know if that's what it was, but I do think Atlanta was being like super aggressive. Like the fact that he had 4 out of his 7 innings under 10 pitches is insane. Like that's how you have 89 pitches through 7 innings. So I think this was a really good first step in the right direction for Gallen, especially with the news of Corbin Burns, which we still don't have really an update other than he's getting a second opinion, which could be good, could be bad. I mean, AJ Puck got a second opinion, and we didn't lose him for the season. We did lose him for a good portion, but Gallen, like, if this team decides to move on from Gallen by the trade deadline, like, these are the kind of starts that we need to see so that we can actually get a solid return for Gallen. I need to see this consistent. Like, he's done this so many times. He'll have these one starts where it looks like we're back to like Cy Young candidate Gallen. I don't want to get my hopes. Like, I just feel because he is slated to start Sunday against the Reds. If we see what we saw in this start and that start, then I will believe it. But if we take another step back and he goes like 89 pitches through 5 and it's like 50-50 balls and strikes. He's given up 4 runs. Like, I'm gonna be like, nah, I need to see it consistently.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we wanted to see all along, not just from Gallen, but from a lot of these guys. It's just consistency. Um, we're runners in scoring position. Like if you're going to hit 240, I believe is their average, technically 240. But I want that to be like 240 consistently. I don't want it to be, you hit 350 one game and then 100 the next game. Like this team just lacks consistency, and they have lacked consistency all season. I think that's why they are where they are right now, which is at 500, because for the most part, most of this team hasn't been as consistent as we would want them to be. And Zach Gallen is a part of that. I do think, I don't know if I mentioned it on here or just talking to my brothers about it, but this team will make the playoffs unless Zach Gallen is Zach Gallen. If he's vintage Zach Gallen, I do think this team still has a really good chance to get into the playoffs, get one of the maybe the second wild card. I don't know about the first one, but either second or third if Zach Gallen is who he has been throughout his career. But I think if he struggles the way he has been struggling, especially with losing Corbin Burns, we don't know exactly how long he's going to be out. But Zach Gallen is the key to this, I think, overall. And if he's not performing, this team might become a seller at the deadline. Just depending on how things go. And in terms of Corbin Burns, the only really real news that we got, which is that he was getting a second opinion, and he was going to Dr. Tommy John, basically. Like,
Yeah.
he's the guy everybody goes to. So it does seem like it's bad news, but at the same time, that is who AJ Puck went to for a second opinion. And he told him, you can rest it up. And so far, everything that we've heard from AJ Puck is that he's progressing really well and should be able to come back towards the end of this month, and which is pretty exciting, especially with his depleted bullpen. But yeah, I hopefully we're still hoping for good news coming out of Corbin Burns.
So
But,
Jeff says you
but
guys are
just
way too somber for sweeping the Braves. Jeff, we're talking game, like once we get to game 2 and game 3, trust me, we are gonna be like, let's go. Like, y'all should just trying to pace.
yeah,
I'm just trying to pace myself.
yeah, and we're also talking about Zach Gallen, and he had a great start, but we've seen Zach Gallen do this before, so it's a little hard to get ahead of ourselves and be yelling from the rooftops, which I think is something that we want to do. But I guess if we would have gone live immediately after, then I probably would have broken my laptop or something by that point. But,
Well, we wouldn't
yeah,
have been able to because I was working. that definitely wouldn't have happened.
but yeah, hopefully this means good things for Zach Gallen, just that he's able to put, I guess, consecutive starts. I think he's able to put consecutive starts where he does something like this. Not exactly 7 runs, 1 inning, but doing quality starts, which is what we need. We need quality starts. If he's able to put in a string of quality starts together, I think this team's going to be in really good position to make a real good comeback and be able to take one of those wild card positions, especially because we're starting to actually play the wild card contending teams like the Reds, the Braves. We got the Padres coming up as well, and I think that's one of the key series. Yeah. I believe we have the Giants coming up this month as well, right? Like, I think that we have the Giants at some point. If it's not this month, it might be next month. Like, we do have a relatively easy schedule, but we do have teams that we are going to competing against in the wild card this month.
So they start a series versus the Giants on June 30th.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's the last one there. But yeah, like you said, like you beat the teams that you're fighting for a playoff spot with. Good thing about this series, unlike last year, we don't have to worry about the Braves and the Mets having tiebreakers over us because, well, Mets still might because there's like the second and third, like there's other tiebreakers, but the Braves, we have the tiebreaker over the Braves. So that's something nice to say that we couldn't say last year.
Yeah, we don't want, like we said, we want to have our destiny in our hands. We don't want this team to be relying on another team winning or losing the last day or two of the season, because it's just not helpful, and it makes it really impossible to be able to schedule out pitching matchups as well. Like, it's game 162. You need a win, and you're gonna, Corbin Burns is ready to go. Like, you're probably gonna throw him out there, and so you won't be able to be the game one starter. But if you're able to clinch beforehand, you can just probably put Corbin Burns on res and have him actually start the first game of the playoffs. But yeah, credit to Zach Gallen. Again, the defense, at least Cattell specifically, wasn't great, but they still got the job done. They still scored. Corbin Carroll hit an absolute missile. Just was amazing in this game. And he's the topic of this next conversation, which is Cattell and Corbin. Both of them, there's been a lot of discussion so far this season, and even to a certain extent last season, which is the fact that both of them just don't hit home runs in the same game. They usually trade off who's good and who isn't. But this is the first time in DBacks history that the number one and number two hitter each hit 2 home runs in the same game. Their combined line was 6 hits, 7 RBI, and 3 walks. There was 8 runs scored in this game. They had 7 of those just the 2 of them. For most of the season, it's been just one or the other. Either one goes off and the other one is a little bit streaky. Maybe we get 1 hit, maybe no hits. But this is the first time we've really seen our all-stars and MVP candidates have a great game. In the offense, something that we talked about, the fact that this team just scores in the first and the 9th inning. In this game, they scored in 5 out of the 9 innings. So it was consistent scoring throughout the game, which is what we've been wanting to see, be able to be competitive, keep teams honest. But the question is, throughout this, since Corbin Carroll has been called up, we've been wanting to see the Bash brothers. We know the power that both of them have. They both have 30 to 40 run bomb power or home run power. Is this just going to be the start of the new Bash brothers and Arizona, or do you think they're going to continue their ways of just trading who is and who isn't good game to game?
I think this is the start of it. Cattell's been on a like I said, like a lot of people were worried because like the first week he came back, like he wasn't hitting like at all, and I'm like, as soon as he gets that first homer out of him, he's gonna get the monkey off his back. He's on pace for like 50 homers if he played the full season, so it's probably more like 40, which is just insane to think about. Like Cattell right now is on fire, and like he's not really like a lot of his homers are coming with him as a left-handed hitter. It's not him as a righty, which is typically where a lot of his power comes from, and that's what excites me. Like if he can like balance it a little bit more, like, and then we saw what Carroll did in the month of April. Month of May, he didn't do anything. He batted like 214. Not very good. So, but like this is kind of what Corbin does. Like when he's hot, he's hot. But when he's cold, like it is very frustrating to watch. So I think, yes. I think they're all in a rhythm right now because we're just over 60 games. I just think that they finally got in their routine. I wouldn't be surprised if they both hit like 8+ homers in the month of June. And then like, can you imagine just 16 home runs in themselves from those two, along with what Gino is doing, along with, I know no one's talking about it, Gurriel is hitting like 350 over his last 30 games. Everyone was worried about, so like, I'm dropping all these names. This offense is finally starting to hit stride. Yeah, the runners in scoring position from game to game can be a little frustrating. They were 2 for 6 in this game, so not awful, but not like you want to maybe see a little bit. Jeff also brings up a really solid point. Notice though, Carroll got hot after Torrey gave him an off day, and I believe that was on Sunday, and then he came in like late as a defensive replacement. Yeah, I think he was, and he says, I think he was tired. He swings really hard and runs really fast, and he's not. He is not very big. So yeah, like, and I love how you made the joke on Monday. He's like, he's gonna sit one of them on Tuesday. And I'm like, no, he's not. These games are too important. And the fact is, Carroll just sat on like had Carroll not sat recently, I'd probably agree with you. I just didn't want to say it. But kind of just getting back on topic. This team's gonna go as far as these two take them. If these two play like MVP candidates, this team will be in the playoff race, which is so crazy to think. Like, not even 4 days ago, like people were talking about, are Diamondbacks, are they going to be sellers at the trade deadline? And I said, nobody's a buyer or seller right now. Even bad teams like the Marlins and then the Rockies, they're not trading their players right now. Typically, you don't see these trades until July. And that's why I said, for me, it was, let's see how they do in the month of June. If they can get over 500 by the end of June, which right now it's looking great because we're 4-0 in the month of June. This team, and we've seen it with some of these games, this team is too talented, has too much talent to not be one of the top teams in the National League.
Yeah, and just to break down quickly Ketel's numbers, I mean, through 30 games, I mean, basically since he's come back, he has 11 home runs, 18 RBIs. So the RBIs are a little low just because with Corbin struggling the way he has, he's been hitting a lot of solo home runs, which is why there's some discussion about maybe moving him to the 3rd spot, maybe moving Perdomo to the 2 spot, which I do agree with. We just haven't really seen Ketel hit in the 3 spot, so maybe they don't want to mess with the good thing there. But he has 17 walks, 15 strikeouts, so he's not striking out a lot. He's walking more than he's striking out. But his splits are 301 batting average, 419 on base, and a 660 slugging. That's incredible. I mean, that you're talking about MVP type of season right there, and he's just barely coming back. I mean, he has 127 at bats, and a lot of the other guys. I don't know if he technically qualifies for a lot of the accounting stats so far. I mean, Corbin has 250 at bats.
So I mean, what it is to qualify, you need 3.1 at bats for every game played for your team. So
he would need to be at about 190, almost close to 200, I think, which is well below that. But I think if he starts playing every day, he stays consistent, then he's probably going to get into a discussion going forward. I mean, again, 11 home runs at this point in the season. I mean, he's making a case. I mean, I said it before. I do think Carroll Marte, if he's healthy, he is a borderline Hall of Famer. And I think this just makes the case just over and over again that he is an MVP. And in terms of Corbin and Ketel, you look up and down the National League and even the American League, those teams that are on top of their divisions and in the wild card spots, they both have 2 All-Stars and 2 MVP candidates in their team. Like, look at the Padres, they have Tatis and Machado on that team. Both are having MVP type seasons there. The Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman are having MVP type seasons. The Giants, I actually don't really know anything about. They all hit 250. That's the thing with the Giants. The entire team is hitting 250, so that's why they keep winning. But you look at these teams, up and down. They have at least 2 guys who are in the running. Even the Mets with Alonso, and I guess right now it would be what's his face? Forgot his name. Mr. Smiles.
Lindor.
I think Soto's starting to heat up as well. Cubs, PCA, they have a couple guys there that should, be in contention for an MVP, or should be getting some MVP votes. And this finally is what we're seeing from this team, is both of our MVPs are looking finally like they're MVPs. So I hope that's going to continue to contribute to a lot of wins for this team, especially because they sure as hell need it. Like we've talked about before, like you can't fall behind 6-7 games in the wild card and then be able to just expect
turn
to
it
come
on.
back.
Yeah.
And to the credit, they seemingly have turned it on. Again, there was a lot of errors that could have easily turned this game around, but luckily the Braves are just kind of worse than them right now. So luck swung their way, and I think for the most part, things are starting to even out. But before we go on to game two, I want to recognize the chat here. AZ Bubble says Atlanta, spell ATLLLA, Anta. So that's the triple L's right there. Justin Huddleston, it says, it was a good series for the D-backs, and they needed that. They are back at 500, so they desperately needed this, because if they couldn't sweep today, instead of being at 500, there would be 2 games below 500 coming into the series against the Reds, who are, or at the time were above them in the standings, and now are below them. So this team is starting to mow through this National League wild card grouping. So hopefully they continue against the Reds. Jeff, like you said, like he says that the lineup is terrifying when Cattell are at the same time. Corbin Barrow says, "Let's go, ladies." It's either "Let's go, ladies" or "Let's go, ladies." I can't tell which one it is. Scott says, "We witnessed history today." Literally, like I think the stat was 1 and 100 and 421, I believe, something like that.
So I don't know if it was. So it's 1 in 419. I don't know if that 1 was today's win or that's what it was before. So they were 0-4.
Oh, and almost 420. Blaze it, yeah. Ivan says, great game. I missed it, though. I mean, that's going to happen with these 9 a.m. games. But I suggest, I mean, if you have the subscription to MLB at Bat, you can always go back and rewatch it, because I think this is one of those games that you do need to rewatch, or at least watch the highlights on YouTube, the ending bit at least. And Jeff is bringing up, a transition to our next topic, which is, he says, the best thing about this game for me, it felt like it was our first complete game. Great starting pitching, offense, big plays, and J-Mark closing it down. And is it this game or is it the second game?
So game 2 is the only one that he pitched.
Okay, so yeah. That was going to be the game 2 topic. When we're talking about the complete, the most complete game of the D-backs season, which is game number 2, in which Merrill Kelly also went 7 innings, gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, and got 8 strikeouts. He left this game, I believe it was 2-0 or 1-0 at the time when he exited the game. Merrill was just absolutely outstanding. He was damn near perfect, literally. Like, he had a perfect game up until like the 5th, I believe, and then they finally got a hit off of him. But he was just looking so good against them, and it was such a great thing to see him bounce back after that disastrous start against the Nationals, which I went back and looked at his stat line. He only gave up 4 runs, like earned runs, in that game through 5 innings, which isn't terrible. But again, it was a Carroll and Marte error that put him behind and ended up scoring 2 runs that weren't earned on him. He is now 3rd all-time in wins behind Randy Johnson and Brandon Webb. So he is just climbing up those leaderboards. And we've talked about it before, where his place in history is going to be at the end of his D-backs tenure. If it's this year, is he on the Mount Rushmore? Is he going to get his number retired? But Kelly, he was able to bounce back from his, I'll say subpar performance. I can't say bad, just because it was 5 innings and 4 runs. And so the big topic of conversation surrounding Kelly and Gallen has been, if you had to re-sign one of them, who is it going to be? And for Merrill, are you worried about his age? Do you think this team should sign him, or do you think his age is going to be a risk?
Yeah, I think he's like 36. My only concern is the velocity on his fastball, because if he can keep it at 94 to 93, then I'm okay with it. Because I think he's always going to have good command of his pitches. Like, I think that's just something that he's really developed over the last few seasons, is literally any pitch. Like, he throws a 4-seam, a cutter, a sinker, a changeup, a curveball, and a slider. He'll throw those pitches in any count, in any location. That is very hard on a batter to even try and get. You're like, what is he gonna throw me? And like we've seen it time and time again. Like he gets guys looking silly. So for me, you resign Kelly. I don't think it's gonna cost you a lot. You could probably do. I think you could do like a 2 year, 30 million, maybe 35. Like, I don't think it's gonna cost you that much because he wants to stay here. He loves this state. He loves this city. He loves this team. Like, I I don't see why they wouldn't, other than the fact that maybe he wants to test free agency, but like I kind of like I don't want him to. Like I want him to be here. Um it's so crazy to see how far he's come since oh god, what year was that? Was that 21 where like he was literally like the worst pitcher in like the worst starting pitcher in all of Major League Baseball. Like he was one blow up start away from being cut. And he completely turned it around and he's been our in my opinion, he's been our most consistent pitcher. Like I don't know how you don't make sure that this guy does not continue to be on this roster next year. Like it was like I know like everyone was worried because like he had the Yankee start and then he had a couple other ones that like we said, not awful, but like not great, like subpar. Like if we were up by more, I think he would have gone out for the eighth for sure. But up 1-0, like we needed to win this game. We'll talk about it next, but the decision Torrey made after Kelly pitched, I don't understand it. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Merrill's numbers this year, I mean, wins and losses don't matter as much, but I do think to guys, it does matter a little bit, just for some accounting stats for them. I mean, he has 6 wins on the year, 2 losses. Those 2 losses have been those blow up games that he had against the Yankees and the Nationals. I believe that was his other loss as well. But his ERA is at 3.43. The what surprises me the most is his whip. The fact that he just doesn't give up walks, he doesn't really give up hits. It's 0.99. And if you look at that stat, it's like 0.986 something. So it's even lower than 0.99 right now. And he's just been so good and so solid for his team. The issue is that he is 36 years old. Usually pitchers don't pitch all that well beyond that age. But we mentioned before, Merrill doesn't rely on speed the way a lot of pitchers do. But the fact that he's coming into the major leagues, the age that he's coming into it, he doesn't have the same workload. I mean, he wasn't in KBO, but still not the same sort of workload or same sort of season as Major League Baseball. So he doesn't have the same amount of innings on that elbow, on that shoulder that a lot of guys would at his age. So I do think he can stay relatively healthy and sharp, and could age a little bit better, like a sort of Greg Maddux type of guy who is going to rely on his pinpoint position and his pitches. And yeah, I do agree with you. At this point, I would rather have Merrill Kelly because it's not like this team has cheaped out on paying him either. It's not like they're not giving him any money. His salary when he first came up was at 5.5. 21 he got paid 4.2, 22 5.2, and then it went up from there to 8 million for 23 and 24. Then this last season he had 7 million. So he had signed a 2-year $19 million contract, $18 million contract, but he had a signing bonus both of those years. So this year he's making 7 million. So good luck finding another pitcher of his caliber for $7 million. You're not going to find it. He deserves his money. Like I said, I wouldn't blame him at all if he decides to go into free agency so he can get the maximum amount of dollars. But he doesn't seem to be that sort of type or in that mindset. So if the DBacks come at him at towards the end of the season and or at the actual end of the season, tell him like 2 more years, 20 million or even 25 million, I do think he would take that in a heartbeat. And I do think it would be beneficial for this team. If you're paying a guy 12 million, that's really not all that much, all that much money anyways. It's a lot lower than you're paying Erod and Jordan Montgomery. And he's been a lot better than them as well. So
Yeah.
you could still solidify this starting pitching staff, bring in Merrill Kelly back. And again, Zach Gallen is a Boris client. He is not signing an extension. With how bad he's been, we've talked about him losing at least $100 million off of that contract. So who knows? We could have both of them back next season. And could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. It just depends. But it's just like I said, I do think at the end of it all, at the end of the season and beyond, if he does resign, I do think he is going to be in those top five, I guess, lists, if not top three lists of all time D-backs pitchers, along with Ren Johnson, Brandon Webb, Kurt Schilling,
He's easily
Zach
top five
Greinke.
already. He's
Yeah,
easily top
right as
five
it is.
already.
Yeah, if you look at a lot of those stats, he is top 2, top 3, and some other ones he is top 5. And I'm excited to see what he does. Like, I don't think he's going to hang it up after this year. There's no way. He's too good, and he's still way too effective to just hang it up. So, but moving on, J Mart. There was some controversy in this game. Very confusing, I think, when we saw who came out of the bullpen in the 8th after Merrill's amazing start. The first guy that comes out of the bullpen was Ryan Thompson. He had just pitched the day before, and in his back-to-back outings, he has not been very good. I believe there was a Jack Summers tweet. I believe batters are batting over 450 this season on his back-to-back starts. And there's guys like Jalen Beeks back there that were available. Or we don't know, just because I don't think anybody asked him. But Jalen Beeks, Graveman, the new guy, Brigham, I believe his name is.
I'd rather have Brigham.
Murillo was out there. There's like 4 guys. Although Murillo, I think, is kind of in the same place as Thompson. I don't have all my trust in him, but he is a lot nastier than Ryan Thompson is. So with Beeks, with Brigham, with Graveman, I do think there's better options coming out of that pen, especially with the lead being what it was, which is 1-0. And he brought in Brian Thompson inexplicably, and Brian Thompson did what we kind of all expect him to do, which was kind of immediately load up the bases, and he was able to get the 1 out. And then he brought in, and Torrey made the call to bring in Justin Martinez. And Justin Martinez came in and just was so nasty. Like, everyone has to go see the pitches that he was throwing in that 8th inning. They were just so disgusting. Like, he was either hitting the zone, and whatever was outside the zone, the Braves just looked completely confused. He was sorting them. They were just not on any of those pitches. But I think that later contributed to him having the struggles in the 9th inning, because he wasn't as sharp in there as he was in the 8th inning. And so the question comes in, which is, did Torrey make the correct decision in leaving J-Mart as long as he did? Like, he loaded up the bases, he was hitting guys, he was just not sharp, and he allowed a run to score, put this game at 2-1. Do you think he should have been removed before he threw so many pitches? I believe his pitch count was at 37.
37 with
17 strikes. So do you think he should have let him in as long as he did? Do you think maybe he should have put somebody else in the 9th before J-Mart came did an up down? What do you think?
I don't know if this is going to be a hot take. Torrey did exactly what you're supposed to do with your stud closers. You let them do, like, who else are you going to bring in? Like, bases are loaded, and I think it was one out when it was bases loaded there. So we had Olsen walk. Yeah. Bases loaded after he hit Luke Williams, and then he walked in the run. Who else are you going to bring in? Morillo? No. Maybe Shelby, but like, I think what the problem was ultimately was J-Mart is not a up-down guy. Like, I think we've seen plenty of examples of that. Is he's just like, I don't know what it is, going into the dugout, being in there for a half inning, and then coming back out. Like he just struggles because it was night and day. Like eighth inning, like you said, he was lights out, making the Braves look stupid at the plate. Comes in the ninth, cannot throw a strike. Just non-competitive pitch after non-competitive pitch. So, but I like there has got to be a reason other than Torrey being Torrey why you decided Ryan Thompson was the guy to go with a 1-run lead in the eighth inning. So you're telling me everybody else in that bullpen couldn't pitch that night? Like it was only Ryan Thompson? Like I wasn't like I'm fine with him in like low to medium leverage. I think he's done better lately. But high leverage, 1 run, and he gives up like back-to-back hits. Like right, like I'm glad that Torrey pulled him so quickly. Like I'm glad Torrey realized that, and hopefully Torrey's learning his lesson with a lot of these guys. Unless it's Shelby or J-Mart, should have 2 guys ready to go for that guy in case he struggles. So, but no, J-Mart, he got the job done. That's what you want out of your closer. Like if this is last year, Paul Sewald, that game is over. Like because Paul Sewald is not a swing and miss pitcher. He is a pitch to contact, funky delivery, trying to keep the guys caught off guard. So, J-Mart's probably, to be honest, I said it last night. I'm like, J-Mart's probably out till Monday. 37 pitchers out of a reliever, maybe Saturday, like if they really need to get the job done. But we didn't see him today, which was to be expected. He threw 37 pitches, even though we kind of needed him. But J-Mart, like we saw, like his stuff is that there's a reason why he is our closer and should be our closer. Even if that's Shelby in the 9th inning, trying to get a 5-out save and struggling, I think Torrey pulls him. I think J-Mart's the only relief pitcher we have that Torrey feel, because Torrey knows J-Mart has the stuff, could come in, and we saw it like last week. Came in, bases loaded, no outs, strike out 3 guys in a row. Like J-Mart just is that special. His stuff is just so nasty. I want to give props to Gabby. Calling a 3-2 splitter with a guy on third is ballsy. That is, you trust this guy. You know that he can make that pitch. Like and I think that's why J-Mart struggles so much sometimes with runners on base, is he's not confident in being able to bounce that splitter.
Yeah, it was just, when the inning kept going, and which is something that we brought up earlier, which is, I believe it wasn't counted as an error, but there was a misplay by Cattell. He wasn't able to finish the double play. At that point, the runs hadn't scored either. That would have been out of the inning. They had 1 out, no run scored, and then they got the easy double play ball. Gino threw it to Cattell. Cattell sort of lost the ball in his glove, couldn't get it out, and so it was just a split second. And unfortunately, that split second in baseball is enough for the inning to continue, and so the inning kept unraveling for J-Mart. But I do think if he gets that, obviously the game's over and that's it, and we're just talking about an easy win and not talking about a sort of not really collapse from J-Mart. But I do want to bring up some of the comments as well.
Very sweaty. Very sweaty.
Yeah, as most of the comments are saying kind of the same thing, but Cormero says if you pull him, you make him think that he has to be absolutely perfect out there, or he's going to pull him out, which makes for mistakes in future outings, which is something that I agree with in terms of his confidence, because if he would have pulled him, I do think in later outings throughout the season, J-Mar's going to come out there and just start nibbling the way Zach Gallen does, the way at times even Merrill Kelly does, when they know they have to be perfect. When this team isn't scoring and they have absolutely no room for error, they start to nibble. And the last thing J-Mar needs to do is start to nibble, because he is not a nibbling guy. With his speed, his movement of his pitches, he's going to go straight after you, and he should stay going straight after guys instead of nibbling on the corners. And I think if Torrey would have pulled him, he would have had that issue again. So I want to give credit to Torrey for leaving him in this game, giving him that confidence, letting him show who he is. And I liked his post game interview when he was saying, like, when they asked him, like, what was going through his mind, he just kept saying, like, I'm the best, which is what you want. Like, we always talk about a mentality of a closer. Closers are just a different breed. Like, not everybody can be a closer. It doesn't matter how good your stuff is. You kind of just need something a little bit weird or wrong about you. And in this case, just Jamar just has that little screw loose in him where, I mean, you see it when he's in the dugouts. Like, he's a little crazy. If he's on the mound saying that, I'm the best, I mean, I believe him too. He is probably technically the best pitcher on this staff, if you want to go for the stuff and how nasty it is. But yeah, like I said, that's what you want to see at a closer. You want a guy with this sort of confidence. So I think they made a great move in extending him this offseason. He's making that, he's really, really earning that money, despite, one or two blowups here and there. But again, I do think this goes down to the fact that the roles need to be established. The eighth inning. Who's the eighth inning guy? Because Brian Thompson should not be the eighth inning guy. If a game is this close, he is not an eighth inning guy at all. It should. I mean, if Shelby was unavailable, there's Kendall Graveman, there's Jalen Beeks, there's Brigham. There's a few guys who should be in that role, and not Ryan Thompson. And so that made him have to come in and throw a lot more pitches than he needed to, have an up down, which he's historically not been great at. And I do think, like I said, overall, I do give credit to Torrey for leaving him in, but I do also want to, give him, a little bit of, I want to criticize him a bit for bringing in Thompson, because he shouldn't have been brought in, and it put him in that situation where they were, where instead of J-Mark coming in just to do a simple ninth inning close, he had to come in, bail out Thompson with one out and 3 men on. I mean, no room for error, and it does take a lot out of you. Like, it's a lot of emotional innings for him that he's having to work. So hopefully, we don't have to wait too long to see him. I'm a little curious what's going to go on tomorrow. If this team is in the same situation where they need a save, Shelby just threw today. J-Mart threw 37 pitches. So who's getting the ninth?
I
tomorrow?
Personally don't think he's pitching them up. Like, even if it's a 1-run game, I think because Shelby didn't throw a lot today, so I think Shelby should be good to go on a back-to-back. Just 37, and like, they're high stress pitches too. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like, I think, to be honest, I think it's Saturday at the earliest. I would feel safer, just for his long-term health. Maybe Sunday, but we'll just have to wait and see. Jeff brings up, I love this point. Loved leaving J Martin. Good for his development to get comfortable in these tough. Like, that was a very playoff situation.
Yeah.
Like, this is all on you. Nobody else is coming in to save. Like, this is all on you, and I think this will give him even more confidence, because like you said, if you guys have been to games at Chase Field when the players are walking down to the bullpen, J Mart's shit, like, he has this swagger, and that's what you want out of your closer. You want that guy to just be a different breed, and that's what J Mart is.
Yeah, and Corbin Barrows makes the point. He says, "I was nervous as J Mart after that huge emotion dump in the eighth." That was what I was saying too. These are not just, these are human beings, and so you're having such a huge emotional and adrenaline dump in that eighth inning. I mean, he's coming in at the highest stress possible. I mean, it's 2-0, bases are loaded, there's one out. And for a guy like J. Mart, he is not a ground ball pitcher. The contact he gives up is usually pretty hard contact. So he
It's weird
had
because
to
he has a
strike.
really good sinker. He has a really good sinker.
Yeah, that's always a weird thing. So in his case, it either had to be pop ups or strikeouts. And so you can see when he got that last out, I mean, he was pumping his fist, he was screaming. Like,
Dude,
that
he
is a
bumped.
huge emotional and adrenaline dump that he had. Then he had to go sit down, and then that's when the D-backs scored as well. So it's not like he had, a 1-2-3 inning from the D-backs to where he was back up, in a couple of minutes. I mean, he had maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe in between where those emotions died down, where that adrenaline went away as well. So, I mean, that's kind of the risk that you have to put up with relievers. But on to game 3, what everyone I think here has been waiting for. So sorry to keep you guys waiting, but we are a series recap podcast, not a game to game podcast. So game 3, this game started as, I guess, terribly as you might, you know, I guess none of us were expecting it to be this bad, but it just kept getting worse. Brandon Pfaadt had a clean first inning, so you're like, okay, it's not terrible. But then the second inning, they scored, they got one run, and then everything completely unraveled in that third inning. I can just break it down real quick. Again, errors caused the unraveling in this inning. Michael Harris, he started off with the pop up. Acuna walked, and then Baldwin he reached on a fielder's choice, so Acuna went to second because of a fielding error from Carroll and Marte. So you had a couple of guys on. Austin Riley hit a single, so then 2 runs scored. And then this is when the real damage started. Matt Olson hit a hard double. They scored a third run. Ozuna cleared the bases for a couple more runs with his double. That was at that point Atlanta 5-0. Then Ozzy Albies hit the third double in a row on the line to Corbin Carroll, and so Ozuna scored. And then finally he got the out on Verdugo, and then Nick Gallen. So at that point it was 6-0 in the third inning. Not feeling good at all, and with good reason. But also, I did feel like it being the third inning, you're going into the fourth, 6 runs. It's a lot, but at that point, you're still like, okay, they still need to get 18 outs on the Diamondbacks as well. You have 18 outs to work with. You can make every single one of them count and put up some runs. So when they did in the fourth, they came in, they put up 3 runs. So at that point, they cut the lead in half, and I think most people were feeling pretty good about it. And like I called him earlier, the white flag that is Tommy Henry came in, and he pitched very well in the fifth. He allowed a run in the fourth. He brought in the fourth, and then he allowed 1 run in the fifth. And at that point, I thought Torres going to take him out and just let the rest of the bullpen take care of it, but he didn't. And 2 more runs were scored on Tommy Henry. And at that point, again, I think most fans felt might have been over. It was 9-3. The D-backs hadn't scored for a couple innings. They came in the 7th. They made pretty quick work of them in the 7th, but they didn't. The Braves didn't score in the 7th either. Then finally, the 8th came around. They put up another run. It was 4-9. Kind of cut the lead in half again. Feeling maybe a tiny bit of glimmer of hope, and then Gravian gave up a run, so now it was 4-10 coming into the 9th. So I don't care how big of a fan you are, how big of an optimistic fan you are. I don't think anybody expected, what happened in this 9th inning. So I can give a rundown of what happened exactly and the chaos that was this 9th inning. It started off pretty bad. Gino struck out, and that point was 1 out. But then Gurriel hit a homer, and there's a lot of that Chris Paul shoots a clutch 3, to go down by 40
Down
or
by
whatever.
30 now.
Yeah, by 30. So, but they did cut the lead in half. I mean, it was 1 out, but they cut the lead in half. It was 5-10. But then Tim Towell had a walk, and then there was a strange call. I believe the pitcher didn't or set too early or something. It was, I don't know, it was just weird. Or there's an interference. Oh wait, yeah, it was just, I don't know. I can't even remember the interference. It was just like 3 or 4 weird calls that went the D-backs way. But then out of the way, Tao was at second base when Alec Thomas came up and he hit a home run, just an absolute missile. And both the runs scored. So at that point, you're looking at the scoreboard and you're like, maybe, maybe they might tie it. Things go right. And then Jose Herrera walked. And so at that point, Brian Snicker finally got out of his chair, woke up from his nap, and he came in and he put in his closer to replace, blew it to the meme. I mean, the jokes write themselves. He blew it. But his name is spelled Blewett. So Iglesias came in, and then Corbin Carroll hit a really hard double. I mean, that thing was inches away from being a home run as well. Like that thing was just absolutely smoked. And all the damage that did off of Iglesias was off of his changeup. So I don't know if they were just hunting that changeup. They know maybe it has a low value. But most of the hits came off of that. And it's not like they were bad changeups. The one that Corbin got was a few inches down out of the zone. The one that Gino also got was out of the zone. The one Cattell was out of the zone. There was just a lot of hits, and Vargas was also well out of the zone. But Corbin Carroll doubled, and then Cattell hit a single, and Nick Allen made a really good play. He almost got Corbin Carroll at third, but he didn't, and then the run scored. Perdomo, he popped out. At that point, it was 2 outs. It was 8-10. Again, I think everybody was just hoping and praying they could at least maybe string 1 or 2 hits here and there. And then Vargas comes up. Vargas, who I believe he hasn't played at all since being called up. He comes in to pinch hit, and he singles, and Corbin scores. Cattell came to second. So that was 10-9. And at that point, the boo birds started coming out, and everyone was like, okay, there's something here. But 2 men on with Eugenio Suarez, who started off this inning, by the way, with a strikeout. He came in and down to his last strike. It was 3-2, 2 outs, and he hit a really hard double off of a changeup. And so both of the runs scored, and suddenly the D-backs took the lead. 7 runs, and then then he continued. Gurriel walked, and then finally Tim Tawa lined out, and so that was it. And then Shelby Miller came in the ninth and just made quick work of them all. So crazy game. I was listening to it on the radio, and every time a hit came across, I'm like, no freaking way. Like, still, like, this game is still going. What were your thoughts and feelings to while this was happening?
I was thinking they're gonna get this to like 7, and I'm gonna be really freaking pissed because if Tommy Henry had not been left in longer than he should have, then we could have won. Didn't matter. This offense came alive in this inning. Like, it's nice to be on the other side of a bullpen collapse late in the game. That's what I love. Like, finally, we know what it feels like to have our offense just go to town on another team's bullpen. Like, literally everyone pretty much did something other than Domo, who had a pop out. Like, it was really nice just to see this offense not really give up. Like, they're like, okay, it's 6 runs. We can do this.
Yeah, and it was just crazy. Like I said, any other time, even this season, we've seen this happen, and this team comes back. We saw it with the Cubs, and like I said, the Dodgers, a few other games this series, even the Rockies too, where they're down by so many, they come back and they still lose. And I thought this might have been one of those games. Luckily, it wasn't, but unfortunately, I do think we have to talk about Brandon Pfaadt and his struggles, because he is the reason why this team was down as much as they were. In this game, his end line was 3 innings, 5 hits, 6 runs. One of them was unearned because of a Carroll and Marte error again, and was his error, right?
Yes, it was a Very routine ground ball
Oh,
that he
that's
could
right.
have
It is.
turned. That
And
they
I
could have
also
turned
believe
too
there's a
easily on.
Perdomo. I mentioned that one. Like it was 110 off the bat, but he was in position to make the play. He just didn't bounce off his glove. And
That one's on Tommy Henry. Literally, it was like the first pitch he threw.
yeah, and I believe that run scored on Tommy Henry as well, which was that one
Correct.
run
Yeah.
that he allowed in the fourth or the fifth. But 5 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, just not effective at all. Just fell apart completely. And his season ERA is 5.51. And so that begs the question, which is what some of the comments are asking. Like Charles is Fott regressing to the mean, or was it just bad luck? We saw Cattell double clutch a double play attempt in the third. So is this bad luck? Did he kind of just lose it after that Cattell missed double play, or is he tipping, or is it just purely location?
I think it's a mixture of everything. I think he is regressing a little bit, but like his last 3 or 4 starts have been bad. Like that's not regression to me. That's like something's off. Whether it's he's tipping his pitches, um, or like a lot of his pitches in like we saw in the first and second inning, like he was having a lot of pitches that were in the middle of the strike zone, and I'm like, you can't keep doing this. Eventually, they're gonna catch up, and they did there in the third. So, I just hope that they can fix it, because we can't afford to have another pitcher out there that every time they go out, it's almost a guaranteed loss, because we have sort of two already with Gallen and Erod. So I'm hoping that they can figure it out, but I'm not confident in Kaplan being able to figure it out. Like my confidence in Kaplan is extremely low right now. So like I know Fott will figure it out because I know how much of a competitor he is, but like last 4 starts, he's 14 and 2/3, 17 earned with 19 hits. Not very good.
Yeah, and when we're talking about regression, that's beyond regression. I think if he was pitching a few better innings and just maybe giving up a couple runs, I do think that would be the regression. At this point, I really don't know what it is. He's just completely off his game. Like I said, his misses are really bad to the point where they're just not competitive. And when he finally puts balls in the strike zone, they're just going straight down the middle. Like they are not hitting the corners. They're not doing anything other than they going straight down the middle. And obviously, players are taking advantage of that. I truly don't know what the issue is. I looked back to see maybe he's on on the other side of the rubber. If he's in the middle, nope, he's on the same side he's been on this whole time. I really don't see anything different. I guess physically with Brandon Fott, he's not looking any really different or anything. It's just he's just not locating. I think that's the biggest issue here. Is just he is not locating. So none of the pitchers are playing off each other. Like what makes that sweeper so deadly is just the fact that normally he can put it anywhere. He can throw it for a strike in the zone. He can throw it for a strike outside of the zone. And right now, he's just if he throws a sweeper, he's just pulling it way too far away. So it starts out of the zone and ends up outside of the zone. So guys aren't swinging. And if he throws it in the zone, then again, he goes straight down the middle. So they're just hitting it and just doing a lot of damage. And I believe in his last 3 innings, he's giving up 13 runs, right? Unless my math is wrong, he gave up 8 earned runs last game in his yes hitter, where he gave up no. He didn't get a single out, and in this inning he pitched 3 innings. So in his last 3 innings, he gave up 5 in this one. So that's 13. 13 earned runs in 3 innings. That's bad. That's really, really bad. His ERA was like at 3.7 just a couple games ago. Now is at 5.5. Like that's 2 runs worth of regression. And I like I said, I don't think this is regression. I just think whatever it is that he has going on right now is not going to get solved right away, unless if they just, I don't know, maybe they just need to have some sort of homestand or something. Maybe there's something physically wrong with him. Maybe they should just do a few quick preliminary tests. Maybe he's not being honest with the team either because of the contract he got, the fact that Corbin Burns is now out, Erod has been out. Maybe he's just not being honest with the team about maybe some shoulder fatigue or something that he might have. But I don't think it's tipping just because at some point the team would have found it, I think, by now, if he was truly tipping. But yeah, Brandon Fott, whatever it is that he has, he needs to figure it out quick because with the way this team is going and the way they're trying to win, you can't have three unreliable starting pitchers on the staff. And as of right now, we have one reliable starting pitcher technically, and that's Merrill Kelly, because nobody knows what Ryan Nelson's future is because they're just been dicking him around, going to the bullpen and having him as a reliever. So, like I said, if this team wants to be competitive, Brandon Fott, Cy Gallen, Eduardo Rodriguez, all of them need to really step it up, fix whatever issues they have, because if they don't, then this team does turn back into a cellar. But do you think, like we've talked about it before with that Cubs game, I mentioned it then, and I had some disagreements from you or even Brett to a certain extent, but even in the chat, that a bad game like that can demoralize a team to the point where they fall apart. And in that case, I think I was right. There were 5 games over 500 at that point, and then after that, they fell to 6 games below 500. Do you think this game is a catalyst in the opposite direction, and they're going to suddenly go on more of a run? Now, right now, there are 4 games in a row. Do you think this is the catalyst to where they start winning 9 in a row, lose 1, 8 in a row, lose 2? Do you think that's what this game is going to do for this team?
Yes, I do, and I think this is different than kind of what happened in that Cubs game. Then also you can kind of look back to that Dodgers Friday game where the one with Shohei hit the grand slam in the ninth. A lot of those are because pitching blew it. This is offense kind of came back and was the catalyst. So, and I think a lot of those bullpen blowups is deflating to this offense, and like they just feel defeated for a couple of days. I could see this as something that kind of moves them, like offense, all like everyone starts to hit. Like I like you can call me like on cloud nine. I could see this as they sweep Cincy this weekend. Like I really do, even with, as Scott likes to put out, Elrod pitching. Elrod is pitching on Friday. Like even with him pitching, I think the way this game to me is such a big turning point. We could be looking at 30 days from now. DBacks are like 6 games over 500, and we're looking back. What was the reason? This Atlanta game. Like, I truly think that this has the capability to be a huge catalyst for the rest of the season.
Especially because it is Atlanta, like context does matter. This team has really struggled against Atlanta, especially the bullpen. Like there's so many games since 23, 24, and even this year where the bullpen comes in or whatever else happens, and the Braves are just able to take those games because of Miguel Castro falling apart, any other bullpen arms. I mean, Gino took revenge for his game where he hit 4 home runs, and this team still lost that game. Gino had the game tying hit, and both the runs were from Gino, which was a tying run, and the go-ahead run came from a Gino swing. And like I said, with these sort of games, like you said, this can be a real turning point because suddenly they got the revenge on the Braves. They're 4-2 against the Braves in the season series. They no longer have to really think about the Braves for the rest of the season, and I do think they're going to find a renewed confidence in themselves to where they're no longer, going to be just going up there swinging for the fences, just hoping something happens. Like there was a lot of really good patient at bats at this game, which is not something that we've seen at all throughout the season. As soon as they would go down 2 or 3 runs, suddenly they would just in the first pitch, and then suddenly, the
I
game
mean,
is over.
that still happens from time to time, but I think
Happened from time to
that's
time,
always
but
going
in
to
this
be.
game, especially in that ninth inning, for the most part, most of these guys took a few pitches and kind of just let the Braves give them something that they wanted. And in this case, with the Iglesias, it was just the changeup anywhere near the zone, and they were able to do damage against that changeup. And like I said, I do think it's going to be able to find this renewed confidence in themselves and in the team overall, where they're no longer going to feel out of it, which is something that we've seen this year. Last season, that we didn't. As fans and as the D-backs, they go down by 5 runs in the third or the fourth inning. You felt a confidence in that team that they were going to be able to come back and win that game. And this season so far, they just haven't done that and haven't been proven to do that. So I do think this is a catalyst going forward. And like you said, if this team suddenly is 6 games, 7 games, over 500 at the end of the month, I do think this is one of those games where you circle at the end of the season and say, this was the turning point. This is when the season started. Despite the injuries, despite everything else, this is the game where this team finally got everything together. Hopefully going forward, the main thing is the defense. This defense needs to improve because like I said, all these 3 games, there was a point where the defense messed up a play, either whether it was an error, a misplay, or just weren't able to make the routine play where this team could have lost. And fortunately, they didn't. And the Reds are a decent team. They're not a terrible team. They have a lot of really good young talent there. So you make a mistake against Elio de la Cruz when he's on first. If you make an error, suddenly he's on third. So that's not a guy that you want to mess around with, and it's not a team you want to mess around with either. But unfortunately,
So
we have to
one
talk about.
thing that no, just one quick thing I want to
Yeah,
talk about that. I was surprised Torrey did it. He pinch hit for Pavin Smith
yeah, early.
in the 4th inning. Like, I'm like, okay, Torrey, like, are you finally coming around to the idea that Pavin is just like he's just not it? Like the fact that he has as your designated hitter, what is it? I think it's 4 homers
60.
with 11. Like it's
60
just like
RBI.
our starting center fielder, who is not hitting very well the last month, has more RBI than Pavin Smith. So, like, again, I don't have an issue with Pavin Smith. I have an issue with people trying to say that he is a above average baseball player. To me, he is a role player that should get, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 starts a week. Like,
Especially with
for
Randall
me,
Grichuk. Randall Grichuk is starting to hit the ball really, really hard. I think Randall should get a lot more starts in that DH spot over Pavin Smith because he is just, not producing. And I think you can look up and down this whole league. I could bet you money right now that even the Rockies DH probably has more RBI than Pavin Smith does. I'm not sure that's true, but that seems right to me right now. We're just getting no production. He has 300 slugging, I believe, and since May. These last 2 months, he has a 300 slugging. So just no production from that DH spot, and that's been one of the biggest problems. So I do think seeing Torrey take him out as early as he did, I do think it's progress, and hopefully we see more Randall Grichuk because like I said, he's not been amazing, but when he makes contact with the ball, he hits it really hard, and he's been helping this team mount comebacks because of that. But again, Pavin, I mean, like I said, he should get 1 or 2 starts a week, not 4 to 6.
starts a season?
I mean,
No.
but he is reaching what he had last year. I believe he's played in 54 games or something this season. Yeah, he played in 60 games. And if you compare them, in some ways he's better, but in some ways he's kind of worse, especially that slugging. And like I said, I think this team, especially Mike Hazen, made a huge mistake in not getting a DH for this team because a 400 slugging from your DH spot is terrible. That's so bad. Like he can, like the strikeouts, don't really matter usually with DH types because they have a 600 slug and hit 30, 40 bombs. Pavin right now is just not that. But, I digress. This was a sweep. This was a great sweep in general. This team just refuses to sweep over and over again, especially last year as well. Makes it really hard to have a winning streak when you don't sweep teams. So thankfully they're able to get the sweep, and hopefully they're able to go into Cincinnati and do the same with them as well, especially with these pitching matchups. It is relatively even-ish. So tomorrow we got Elrod on the mound. He is 1-3 with a league worst 7.05 ERA versus Lodolo, who is 4-4 with a 3.10 ERA. Then Ryan Nelson gets the start. He's 2-1 with 3.43 ERA versus Martinez, who is 3-6 with a 3.89 ERA. And then Sunday, Gallen is 4-7, 5.13 ERA versus Singer, who is 6-4 with a 4.66 ERA. I do think, other than the Erod matchup, most of these should be about the same, if not a little bit better, just because the Central, it does suck. Central has a couple teams on there who are just not very good. So they've been, teams like the Brewers and the Cubs have been able to take advantage of teams like the Pirates. So you don't really get that in the NL West. Like so far, the D-backs have had one series against the Rockies, and so have every other team. So hopefully they are able to complete the sweep, go 7-game winning streak, go 3 games over 500. But what are you expecting to see from the series? What do you want to see? Who do you want to see perform in the series?
Scott took the words right out of my mouth. Suarez needs to go off in his homecoming in Cincinnati. I would love to see Gino have like a 3 to 4 homer series, like in the 3 games. Like for me, that would feed families. Like I truly expect Gino to have a really, really good series. Nice thing about Lodolo, left-handed pitcher. We know we're getting Randall Grichuk tomorrow, so that's really great. Charles asks, is Grichuk's numbers against same-side pitching really that bad that Pavin has to get every start? So, funny thing, Grichuk is 7 for 17 against right-handed pitching this year. So he's destroying right-handed pitching. So, and like I've definitely noticed, like the last week or so, he's getting a few more starts. So I'm thinking Torrey is starting to see it a little bit. He's probably listening to his mom. Is just trust your gut. Just trust your gut here. I said earlier in the episode, I think this is a sweep because of what they did today. I think that offense's confidence right now is sky high. Nelson has pitched pretty much really well in all of his actual starts too. And we know he'll get at least 2 or 3 here in a row. So Gallen, so Cincinnati, I believe, is in the Eastern time zone. So take that what you will. Gallen loves pitching in the Eastern time zone. Maybe we'll get another quality start out of Gallen. We are more talented than Cincinnati. There's no reason why we shouldn't sweep all 3 games. Unfortunately, Friday, everyone, is an Apple TV Plus game. So unless you have Apple TV Plus, it's going to be a little difficult to watch. So that is a bummer for I don't know how much of the fan base is not going to be able to watch this game. I definitely know when I'm watching, I'm turning on the alternate audio broadcast so I can listen to Chris and Candy because Jesus Christ, like it doesn't matter what teams it is. The actual broadcasters are awful. The games look spectacular. They really do. But I'm like, I gotta either turn off the sound or listen to the radio broadcast because these guys are bad. But I think, and I'm not like super confident, but I feel pretty good that a sweep is possible. If not, we win Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and with Erod, Scott is saying to replace Erod. Oh, he says Elrod, but yeah, Erod. If he struggles and he comes back as bad as he is, we have Christian Mena up still. Like, he's banished to the shadow realm right now. He hasn't pitched at all since Sunday, I believe. So he is an option to be an actual starter. Like, we might have to shift to the youth movement if Erod continues to be as bad as he is, and with Ryan being in and maybe Corbin being out, I do have trust in this team with these young guys who have just absolutely nasty stuff. But you're right. I do think Suarez has to go off. He has to hit 2-3 home runs, especially in that short porch that is Cincinnati in that little bowl. So I'm relying on Corbin Carroll. If he hits 3 home runs this series, I would not be surprised. If Gattel hits 3, 4, wouldn't be surprised either.
We're talking about 9 homers this series with this team. This is crazy.
I mean, especially with the starting pitchers, like, there's a couple of them who are fine. Like I said, they're not exactly the best. I mean, the Reds don't have the greatest bullpen either. So if the D-backs stay with the same approach that they had against Atlanta, which is being patient for the most part, I can see them really coming out of their shells finally and performing the way they need to be performing and the way we've been wanting them to perform. But very quickly, the games are at 4:10 on Friday. It's a 1:10 start on Saturday, and then 10:40. So breakfast with the D-backs on Sunday. So everybody, be prepared for that. Hopefully, we can get some good clips from the Apple TV game because I don't think I have it. So I'm gonna have to find either an illegal stream, or I'll just ask my brother for his Apple TV login or something. But anyways, thank you everybody for joining us. Bubba, Justin, Jeff, Corbin Barrels, Scott, Ivan. Am I missing anybody? Charles and Scott Mack, if I didn't say that already. Thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you guys on Sunday with hopefully a sweep of the Cincinnati Reds and a 7-game win streak. Bye.
Under the lights, the game goes down. Tears a heap, but we own this town. Brennan gave on the call with Josh in the back.